Good. Go ahead.
Good evening, and welcome to the Thursday, December 14th, 2023 Marlington Local School District Board of Education meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Josh Hagan,
Here.
Karen Humphreys,
Here.
Kathy Krepko,
Here.
Mark Ryan,
Here.
Jonathan Swift.
Here.
Reading of the mission statement, Mr. Mark Ryan.
In collaboration with staff, community, parents, and students, Marlington Local School District will develop lifelong learners who understand and apply knowledge and demonstrate excellence in pursuing the highest standards with effective intervention to challenge every student.
Thank you. Additions or corrections to the meeting agenda? Any?
No corrections or additions, but one exhibit was added that I noticed just before the meeting. For the FMLA leave requests, there's a fourth one that was uploaded just this afternoon for Mark Galling, effective January 7th. So I don't think we need to change the resolution or anything, but wanted you to be aware that his was now included.
Thank you. The adoption of the meeting agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the following agenda for December 14th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Krupko,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Ms. Humphreys,
Yes.
Mr. Swift.
Yes.
Special presentation.
Okay, good evening. Welcome to our December board meeting. We're going to start with honoring our students of the month. So we're going to start with our high school. So I'll have Mr. Farrell come up and introduce his ELK students of the month.
Good evening. I have the honor of recognizing two of our fine students at the high school as Elks Students of the Month here this evening. The first one, Alex Ritchie, would you please come forward? Stand up here. Right here. Alex is the daughter of Michael and Jennifer Ritchie. She is the choir president and member of Student Council, Character Counts Club, and an anchor on the morning video announcements. She's played volleyball since 4th grade and is a member of the varsity volleyball team. Alex has had a lead role in 3 Drama Dukes musical productions and is a member of the Carnation City Players. She is a pianist at her church in Hartville and enjoys volunteering in the Marlington community through sporting activities and events. After graduation, Alex plans to attend the University of Mount Union to study business and public relations. She hopes to participate in their choir and theatrical productions. Alex's teachers say that she is a pleasure to have in class, and she is an incredibly positive influence. She always has a smile on her face and takes the time to speak with others. She is an exceptional role model for all students, and her warm personality and bright smile is contagious to everyone around her. Alex, congratulations. Our other Elks Student of the Month is Dylan Hawthorne. I haven't seen him. I don't know if he was able to make it tonight. I'm going to go ahead and read through everything for Dylan as well. So Dylan is the son of Matt and Elaine Hawthorne. He is a member of the Marlington chapter of the FFA, Landscaping Career Tech Program, and the varsity baseball team. In his free time, he volunteers with a local landscaping company providing services to community members. After graduation, Dylan plans to work for a landscaping company and eventually own his own business. Dylan's teachers say he is a terrific young man and takes great pride in all of his work. You can always count on Dylan to do the right thing. He is an excellent team player, as evidenced by his ability to work really well with others and his desire to always help other students or staff. Dylan is a positive influence on everyone around him. He displays a great work ethic and can always be seen with a smile on his face in class and when working as an attendance office aide for Mrs. Bogdanovich. So how about a congratulations for Dylan Hawthorne? Next up, middle school principal, Mr. Rizzoletti.
Good evening. The middle school would like to recognize our December students of the month, and first up is Isabel Hartzell. Isabel is the daughter of Carol and Mike Hartzell. She has a brother in the marching band at the high school. This is what her teachers have to say about her. Isabel has a heart of gold. She's very passionate about the band. She's kind to everyone, a hard worker, and very respectful. She's just a great student. Izzy Hartzell exemplifies a respectful, responsible leader. She takes pride in her work as it's always completed with thoughtfulness and care. She brings a positive attitude to every class and shares kindness with her all around her. Izzy has a great personality and a strong work ethic. Additionally, I'd like to add that Izzy's one of our student members of our building leadership team. So what she does is she sits in a room with a whole bunch of adults and comes up with ways to make our school better. And she does a great job of that. We're very proud of Izzy Hartzell. Our next December student of the month is Connor Cole. Connor is the son of Angela and Chris Cole. This is what his teachers have to say about him. He's a very kind and hardworking individual. You can count on him to put forth his best effort and be respectful in the classroom. Connor is willing to ask questions when needed and to lend a helping hand to others. Connor Cole works hard every day, is a great leader by example, and demonstrates kindness towards others. He's willing to challenge himself and persevere when things become difficult, and he's kind to others and very helpful. Additionally, Connor is a team captain for Academic Challenge. He's a great leader as new students join the team. We're very proud of Connor Cole. Next to Mrs. Weber and Lexington Elementary.
Good evening. I have the pleasure of introducing Miss Alexis Mooney, 5th grade, Lexington, Kiwanis Student of the Month. Come on up, Alexis. Alexis was chosen for 5th grade Student of the Month by her teachers because she is a hard worker and is always willing to try her best. She is a quiet leader in the classroom. Alexis is a model example of our Duke Pride expectations each and every day. This student has a kind and caring heart for others. Keep up the good work, Alexis. Your teachers are proud of you. A few things about Alexis. In school, her favorite subject is writing. Something about her family. She'd like to share that she loves riding horses and that she has lots of pets. She goes to horse shows and competitions quite often. She would also like to share that in the future, she'd love to visit London, England, because there are lots of horses there. One more thing about herself. I think we know that she loves riding horses. She also is a tumbler and a gymnast, and she likes to sketch. She's an artist, and she loves writing stories. Congratulations, Alexis. Next up, Mrs. Mort, Marlboro Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Marlboro Elementary's December Kiwanis Student of the Month, Velica Miller. Come on down, kiddo. A little bit about Velica from her teachers. Velica is an extremely hardworking student. She always comes to class prepared, participates intently with the day's lesson, and asks clarifying questions. She has a positive attitude and a fun sense of humor. Whenever a challenge is presented, Velica faces the task head-on with determination and focus. The fifth grade teachers are very proud of how dedicated she is when it comes to her education. A little more about Velica. Her favorite subjects in school are math and physical education. Velica has always liked math. She is good at it, and it's fairly easy for her. Additionally, she loves being physically active and has so much fun in physical education class. Mrs. Heather always creates a fun and exciting environment in the gymnasium, and Velica always looks forward to her PE class. Some special things about Velica's family. Velica lives with mom and dad, Jen and Paul, and her two brothers, Noah, who's a 2023 graduate, and Tyler, who's a 10th grader. They have 4 dogs, an English Mastiff, Great Dane, and 2 Frenchies, and a hamster named Ryder. As a family, they enjoy going to dinner together and going camping. They especially love making fires while they're watching outdoor movies at their campsite. Velica enjoys meeting new friends while camping in many different camping activities. For Velica's future, she would love to meet the following people: Adam Sandler, Hugh Jackman, and Donald Trump. Adam Sandler is very funny, and she enjoys watching his movies with her mom. Hugh Jackman is a great actor, and she enjoys watching X-Men movies with her dad. Lastly, Velica thinks Donald Trump's bobbleheads are entertaining and that he is also very funny. Velica would also like to be a professional swimmer one day, and maybe even a teacher. Her best events are freestyle and breaststroke. She went to state 3 times for competition and has earned many awards for her events. In her free time, Velica likes to jump on her trampoline and play soccer. This past summer, she taught herself how to do a backflip. She also loves being outdoors and being active. Once again, congratulations, Velica Miller, December Kiwanis of the Month for Marlboro Elementary. Next up, for Washington Elementary, Mr. Spondeel.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome up here our December Kiwanis Student of the Month, Lily Perkins. Smile big. There you go. Good job. Okay. This is Lily Perkins. She was selected for a multitude of reasons. She comes in every day with a positive attitude and a drive for success. Lily is a committed student and athlete, and is always setting an example for her peers worth following. She never misses an opportunity to help others around her, and her patience and kindness is well beyond her years. She continually works hard and has already accomplished many great things this year. Lily was also selected for this award because of her character, her determination, and her impeccable work ethic. Though her leadership skills are quiet in nature, her peers clearly look up to her and seek to follow her lead in the classroom and beyond. In school, Lily's favorite subject is reading or writing, and I've read some of the things she's put together. It's very good. She lives at home with her mom and dad. She has 2 brothers, Noah and Evan, and 1 sister named Bella. She likes to go to the Outer Banks with her family in the summer and go to the beach. In the future, Lily would like to go to Hawaii. Nice beaches there. And one special thing about herself is she runs cross country and she plays basketball. Congratulations, Lily. Well done.
Okay, we have one more special presentation we're going to do tonight. This has been quite an honor because it seems to become a tradition here in December for our board meetings, but we're going to bring Mr. Miller up and we're going to let the board recognize our state cross-country team.
Thank you. Last June, Colin Sringansky had just won his second straight 1-mile state championship in Columbus. And then before that, Colin, Logan, and Lucas won their second straight 4x800 state championship, which is very rare, and we've done it twice in a row. I bring that up because 3 days later, I was on the track, and these guys were all having a killer workout. This was 3 days after a state championship. I know it was a killer because I almost took a picture of Colin, who was puking in a trash barrel. And the caption would have been, "This is what it takes to be a champion." He had worked himself. He could have sat back and just left the, "Hey, I'm a state champion," but they all wanted more. Another tribute to this team was the fact that they lost in regionals, and they're not used to that. So when we went down to Columbus for this three-peat potential, we were actually the underdog, and they ran the best race of the year to bring home a state champion. I also do want to make mention, if I could, of Colin Sringansky and the special athlete that he has been at Marlington, by far the most decorated Marlington athlete in our history. He has won a state championship twice in the 1 mile. He has 2 state championships in the 4x800. He has 1 state championship in cross country, and he was runner-up this past year. Ohio State gains a very good runner, and we're very excited for him. This team, lastly, I want to conclude, this team doing a three-peat, this is amazing. In Ohio high school athletic history, there has only been 2 other teams that have three-peated in cross country. This is the third. Just a tremendous job. I always say this when I talk about them. Championship teams, it's a 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 responsibility. A third of it is definitely you have to have the athletes, and we do. But the other third is you have to have a great coach. And I don't think anybody would ever question that Missy Graham Perkins is an outstanding coach. She also will be our most decorated coach in our history with 3 state champions in her name. The last third, and some people don't realize this, but I see it as athletic director, are the parents. You have to have supportive parents who aren't bashing the coaches at home, aren't bashing the other players. I never had a parent call me from the cross-country team and say, "Colin's getting too much press," or "Logan's getting too much press." They cheered so hard for each other. They're a little family when we go to these meets. Just outstanding. So once again, it's a three-peat. The signs are up on the road. We'll get this one up shortly. And congratulations, 2023 state champions.
Well, the cross-country team's going up to another room where they're going to have some interviews with Staggart Media, and they'll get some pictures up in there too tonight. So that's where they're heading now with Mr. Miller. Okay, we're just about to start the formal part of the meeting, so if you wish to join us for the formal part of the meeting, please stay. If not, we're going to wait here about 30 seconds, and we'll go ahead and begin with the formal part of the meeting.
Are we on? Okay. Invocation, Matt Cross from Marlboro Christian.
Good evening. Would you join me in prayer? Father, you are holy, and we thank you for the countless, many blessings that you give each and every one of us, each and every day. We thank you for the awards that were given just now. We thank you for the youth that is throughout this district. And I thank you for the leaders that you have placed in their roles for a specific reason that you have. I pray for wisdom, for good communication, for positive outlook tonight as we have a board meeting together, the Marlboro community, for the school districts, for all the youth and the families that are to be affected by the decisions made tonight and for the future. I thank you for your son and for his sacrifice for all of us. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
OSBA presentation, Mrs. Greco?
They are pretty quiet right now. I am on the OHSAA Liaison Committee, and I did send off a message to them to acknowledge that Joe Eaton, who was athletic director here for a couple of years and Federal League commissioner for many years, passed away this month. He was a great supporter of Marlington athletics, and he will be missed terribly by his friends and family. And so I've notified the OHSAA just in case they weren't notified. Also, the only other thing I have is that January 15th is the deadline for the Northeast Region book grant to apply for it. So if we have any students that qualify or are interested, we need to get that information to them. And other than that, it's been quiet. They have a lot of things on the books, but nothing that's been voted on formally.
Thank you. Presentation, Mr. Swisher.
Okay. Okay, switching it up again. That way I can talk to everybody, talking to the board as before my presentation here, so I'll try this again this month. It worked out pretty good last month. So we're going to go into my presentation as normal. Welcome to December. Mr. Swisher, Superintendent. Again, we're going to stick with it here. We're talking about our theme for the last 2 years. We're moving our second year is every minute, every moment, every memory. It's just critical that we continue treating our kids how we teach, what we do every day, and kind of under that theme, it just keeps moving us in the right direction. So we're going to talk about reasons to celebrate. Short month here. We're going to talk about some district highlights here. So we're going to talk about our district kitchen decorating contest. I'm not sure if you guys are aware we had that this year, and our holiday concerts. Basically, each of our 5 kitchens were tasked to basically decorate their kitchen. The cooks, in general, were tasked to decorate their kitchen any which way, homemade, bought, whatever. And then they had judges throughout the district then come one morning and kind of judge each various kitchen. So it was it gave the opportunity for the cooks to do something fun within their kitchen, their cafeterias, and they just went above and beyond. So I just have a few pictures up there. There's Marlboro, and right there on one side we got Washington, and we also have Lexington right there. So our 3 elementaries. And then they obviously had their cafeterias decorated too, some a little bit more than others. But each took their turns, and those are just small snippets. There's obviously much larger pictures to that. The high school kind of, had theirs. There's their high school staff, and then we have the middle school over there. They kind of did a whole gingerbread house in front of their things with a roof, and I think Mr. Beamer was the elf, so he enjoyed that part of that morning. So they really had a good time, and if you kind of haven't been in our buildings or in our cafeterias right now, they're completely decked out, so the kids are really kind of enjoying the Christmas spirit. There's different things and different type of ambiance going on, so it's really been nice to see for our kids. So that was something new that our food service coordinator came up with. So I get to give further credit. This was kind of her idea. Actually, I don't even think the principals were aware till later on that this was even going on. It was just something that they talked about, and it just kind of transpired from there. There's some more pics from the cafeterias, just so you know. So the one on the top left's more of the, that's from the high school. And I was not a judge. I got actually banned from judging because they said I was biased because I eat more in the middle school than other places for lunch, so I was not allowed to judge. So can't say where all those were from, but I can tell you just different things. So they did a really nice job. Holiday concert. So we have the high school concert is actually tonight at 7. So if you get done here tonight, you can go over to see the high school choir concert. Our high school band concert's next week on Tuesday. But we did have 3 elementary concerts already. So we had Lexington's last night, then last week we had Marlboro and Washington. So Marlboro and Washington's was at the high school as a combined, which really worked out. The third, fourth, and fifth, they had it at the high school. Lexington was able to house theirs right at their place, but all shows, from what I hear, were magnificent. I mean, so it's, you ask if you want any good stories, talk to Mrs. Weber. She had some interesting shows, in addition to her show last night. So that was it, so if you're interested in a good story, her fourth grade put on an extra special show last night for everybody too. So somebody might have got a little sick right in the middle of the show. So that might not have gone real well. Some more pictures from holiday concerts. The kids had a good time. Okay, so where we're at right now, kind of, quicker, I mean, it's December, so we're kind of just wrapping, it's kind of a short month for us, but I do want to give you a little bit of an update. We are submitting tomorrow what we called it's called a Career Tech Equipment Grant. So what that is, again, the state's giving away money, and we kind of looked at our current Career Tech programs, and we're looking at revamping one of our Career Tech programs into a coding program. So you can write the grant for up to $2.5 million. So it's we're kind of working through that process right now with the grant team, which really much is dealing with, of course, Renee Cayley, our curriculum director, is kind of the spearhead of the grant. She's the mastermind behind it, and we could not do that without her. Steve Miller, obviously on the Career Tech side, has been involved in this process. I've helped out from some of the getting some different people in when it comes to having to talk about some of the construction things that could happen, because you have to give a ballpark number if we get it. So really it gives us, for Marlington, it's for us to secure funding to support some initiatives. We're going to transform one of our pathways into basic coding development pathway, and it's going to tie into our middle school and high school. So it'll be a feeder. So if the kids actually take this coding, they get a certificate, and I'll give you, I say the word Python, and Ben probably knows exactly what I'm talking about or what it is, but they're saying that if you have this certificate when you leave, you have a good chance of just walking directly into the workforce, making anywhere from $60,000+ right off the get-go. So we have the space for it. We already have the teacher, so it's not a cost, but we can get the grant money to fund all the equipment and make the space better. So that's what the grant is for. Okay, so in this particular case, like in the last grant, we talked about, with that our compact got, anything that we get helps Alliance, vice versa, so we have the culinary grant. And the twist of this is, Alliance, because Alliance took that grant over from, as a combination grant, is, they have to sustain the body or the person or the cost of that, where in this we already have it. So we're just revamping the coding. So I want to let you know where we're at. So that's going to be a nice sized grant that we're going to write for. Now we got to be careful, because you write it too big, they pass over you. You write it too small, you could have got more. So we're just trying to find that fine line. We worked up till 3, 4 o'clock today. We know we have to submit this by tomorrow is the deadline. So we're close. So we'll get that in by tomorrow. Okay, 2. Obviously, we talked about last week, I think that most of our discussion was, obviously we know that my recommendation is obviously to have a permanent improvement levy on the ballot, a small one at 2.9. We have not had a permanent improvement levy since '99, which is strictly for buildings, not for operating costs. One of the questions came up throughout it, towards the end of it, was, if you're asking for permanent improvement money, which is great for our buildings, sustaining our 5 buildings is critical. After the roof's done, and the buildings are paid off, the loan lease, whatever, that's still, you're getting an additional influx of money. So let's just say it's $1.5 million. Why do you need it? I guess was a general board question. In general, which was fine, and I gave a quick answer of saying we still have needs such as, paving and so forth. But then I had to go back and spend the next 3 weeks. And I just basically asked a general question. I just kind of went around the district, I asked my administrators, I talked about different things, but I drove around. I said, what needs do we need? Because we're going to, yes, our roofs will be complete by, so that's another $2 million that we're going to have that'll come out of that PI levy, which is good. On top of that, we still have to pay another $800,000 a year till 2027 to get our loan lease paid off, which is good. Because we're talking, if this levy passed, we would start getting money half in 2024. We really wouldn't collect till 2025, because it's only a 5-year. Well, then I just kind of sat down with Bob and Al and kind of walked around the district, and in my notes, it's hard to do it in 3 weeks, but we still have, obviously I was correct, we have significant paving needs, which we do got to talk about, come up like we do in a work session coming up. What do we want to continue to do? But like the parking lot by the middle school that has never been paved is, about $115,000 to $160,000. We have, I just go down the list here of things that I saw that are all, when I say needs, PI, I don't mean they're immediate needs. Like, oh my gosh, tomorrow the sky's falling. I'm just saying, if you really want to, in my mind, we want to continue to maintain our district at a pace of roughly $1 to $2 million a year until we get to a point where we can step back from that. We need to know what all the areas are in the long term between the next 5 and 10 years. What are big ticket items that could affect our district? Abating Lexington. We got a cost last year. We know at some point in time it has to be done, even if it's done in phases or small chunks, is $400,000. We know then we have to put a drop ceiling in because you can't see that. Well, we got that price. We know that's $150,000 or $130,000 to $145,000. We were able to clean up at Lexington. It's not a wastewater treatment plant at Lexington. I think we're fully aware of that. It's kind of like, your septic that runs into it, and it runs into the sand pits and does fine. We were able to have, fellers come in and get all that cleaned up last December. You guys approved that, if you remember. We've kept that up. That's extending the long-term growth of that thing. He said that's going to get you out there. We were hoping another maybe 5 to 10 years, which is great because that was at a cost for us for, I don't remember what we paid, but it was right at $10,000. I don't think it was much more than that. But at some point in time, we're going to have to look into, we're not going to get rid of Lexington. We're going to have to look at putting a wastewater treatment plant in there. Well, we don't have a new quote, but in 2020, 3 years ago, that was $395,000. I mean, that'll change in the next 5 to 10 years. It's not a need right now, but that's what it was then. The smokestack at Lexington, that we don't use. It's just a large brick stack that makes me nervous. Is it deteriorating at all? No. Is it fine right now? Yes. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I think it should be removed at some point in time in the long-term run. The quote on that was like $160,000. We want to keep up with our playground equipment. Playground equipment runs anywhere, there's no rhyme or reason. I can't give you an exact figure on playground equipment, but you're talking $15,000 to $50,000, and you got 3 buildings. The gravel lot at Washington needs paved. The rear lot at Washington needs paved. We still have lentils at Washington that are fine, but we took care of it once years ago. They know they need relooked at again to continue with that. Back in 2020, the cost was around to redo all the lentils if we had to do them all. Just the lentils was about $127,000. And that's probably gone up from there, but it's just our high school track. It was done when Lou Ramuno was here with PI. It's coming due. Now it's a resurface, so it's about $300,000. A new track's like $900,000, but a resurface is about $300,000. That's coming within probably the next year or two. Is really where we're at. Our high school gym windows need to be done. We still need AC in our auditorium and our gym. My big thing I really wanted to know, which I thought was great, is our lighting really lacks in this district. Doesn't matter what building you go to, we need more additional lighting. So we had Polly's come out, Basically a light pole and a post is basically in general about $5,000. And he gave kind of like an outline of what it would be, but You know, there's a lot of different areas between just the high school and middle school alone, let alone some of our elementaries that could use some additional lighting. And that's just me touching through a list of going around the district. When you say, is there a continued need for money? That doesn't include the basic maintenance that we spend yearly. And that's, you know, the changing of the toilets, the cleaning supplies, the scrubbers, you know, the gasoline. We should be replacing roughly 1 to 2 buses a year. We've been pretty good about that. Buses are $100,000 to $110,000. So in general, our current PI brings in, since '99, they passed a 2.0. It's the only PI it brings in, you know, almost $600,000 a year, which that is plenty to cover basically what we do to our basic maintenance, our cleaning supplies, things like that we do, and some additional others. All the stuff that we've been doing that we should be doing for our district, and I agree with, is coming out of operating money. You're moving operating money into it. That's the only reason it's that. So I agree. I just wanted to, and that was just me coming through why. And that's a 5-year. So after 5 years, if you say, hey, you know what, the board looks and says, we don't need it, and that's fine. You know, and I won't sit there and take excess money. I'm not that way. It's just that it's not for additional programs or additional buildings or additional whatever. This is just, that's what, you know, the thought was when I had to go through and think about this. I mean, we're still going to struggle this summer coming to an agreement of what we need to continue to work on, because we're spending another $1 million on the roof. We still need to be cautious enough to save some for a rainy day. At the same time, we still have significant needs that need to continue to be addressed in this district. That's kind of what, when I say PI improvement levy needs, it's a need. It's not a mandatory. It's not like, oh, here we go, we got to have this, the sky's falling. I am not saying that at all. Our district's our district is in good shape. There's not a single thing that I says has to be solved by tomorrow, because if it was, I'd bring it to you tonight and say, hey, we need to pay for this. But we do have future needs, and I don't want to be in a position where we don't have the money to do it, or we're going to struggle because we have to tug it between our operating or tug between our PI. When in this small levy, we don't have to tug, because the Forecast 5 expert basically says you pass this PI and you leave your operating money where it is, your district operating money, you're good for the next 5 years for sure, and with a $10 million carryover, which in my mind is going to be much larger than that, because we always know that 4 or 5 year is not a good estimate. And I'll work hard on that. I have no, you know, I've never once said out here I'm looking to add what we have. We just need to do it better and keep going at it. On that note, before I talk about my community meeting dates, you know, Josh called and asked me a question. He just said, hey, he got some questions about what we would consider, and I did not. There's a wrestling complex going on in the district that either I approved or we magically approved. And I tried to explain. I said, well, I didn't get anything like that. I didn't know that was being talked about. I had to do a little digging. But it's still back to the same conversation. Actually, my conversation with Josh was, no, nothing's changed from when, and I don't remember who all I generally said it to. Josh was one. You know, we were at senior night, and I said, hey, you know, he's looked at where Meyer was dumping. And I said, no, that's where the wrestlers want to eventually try to put up a wrestling complex if they can, because their youth program's so big. You know, I think I might have said something, the same thing to Karen or Kathy, I don't know, and I don't think I said anything to Mark or Jonathan, because it wasn't anything I brought to the board yet, because it wasn't anything that's going to be done. There's been no district funds whatsoever used about this so-called wrestling complex. The story's real simple. When I came on board 18 months ago, we have an enormous youth wrestling program. It's amazing what these coaches do and work with these kids. All right, because we share our facilities. They just are very tight and not getting in where they need to. We're overlapping. The parents came to me and said, hey, if we can fundraise enough money, could we build like a pool barn type thing to be able to use for practice and or youth meets, maybe even collaborate with the soccer program? Is that possible? And I said, well, anything's possible. You're just not going to get any money from us because we don't have any money to give. But if you're willing to research it, do your own research, find out what's going on, and if you get to the point where you can know that you can build on our land somewhere, then you can come to the board and ask for permission. That's where it ended. And this group of individuals has been basically doing this for the last 18 months. You know, they got some lucky there with the Meyer being built and Meyer saying, hey, can I dump? And that was a good spot for them. But when it comes to design firms, fees that you submit for the Stark County Planning Commission, the tentative approval they have because they don't have full approval, that's all on them, not Marlington. I equate it to, and when Josh and I were talking, was, you know, we had a community member a year ago say, hey, we'd love esports, which so would I. And we did research on that. You know, we researched, went to districts and looked at adding esports. I didn't get board's permission to do that because my job as a superintendent is to research different options, and then if there's a feasibility that it could happen, it's to bring it to, then they bring it to the board, and then we make a recommendation as a board if it's feasible, if that's something that we want to do for our district or not, and that's okay. And we came to the conclusion that esports, again, was a financial cost we just weren't ready to incur, so it wasn't anything we brought to the board. So, you know, I applaud the group of parents in wrestling program or what they're doing. They felt bad. They came to me and said, you know, did we cause a problem for you? And I said, no. You know, I didn't know anything about it. It was brought to my attention. It was put on social media. I can't control a small group of people that just, for some reason, have an issue with, I don't know what their issue is, to be honest. I couldn't approve, if I wanted to, a wrestling complex on our property, legally. I mean, in 18 months, I've never done anything remotely like that. Why would I just magically start now? They have not even raised $1 for this complex yet.
I think the confusion comes in with the application submitted to regional planning. I mean, on behalf of the district, wouldn't it make sense that there would be communications with the district when something of that, you know, scope gets submitted?
Well, yeah, and their communication was with me. You know, I mean, I knew that the submission was they were going to try to submit because that's what I told them to do. I said, if you can prove you can build, then you have a right to come to the board and ask. But why would you waste your time fundraising money on a booster level, for example, or whatever private level, or seeking donations, knowing you're never going to be able to build here, either because there's not a feasible spot or because the board just doesn't want to have another building, you know, or for whatever reason, tangible reason they want to come to the thing with it. So until they got, and they're still not there. They're still not at the point where they've gotten approval, full approval to be able to say, hey, we can do that. So, you know, I kind of talked to Andy Lamacusa yesterday or the day before, and, you know, and I said, you know, when you get the full approval, or if you think you're close or you're going to get that, then you need to let me know, and you need to schedule and come in to talk to the board, either publicly or exec session, depending on how that works and what that is and what you want to do. Because the board will make the final decision, but you can make your presentation to why. You know, what numbers, what data, what you have, and so forth. But I'm just telling you, there hasn't, from a community standpoint, there hasn't been a single penny spent on our end at all. You know, and if I overstepped on that end, then I'm sorry. I guess that's how I look at it. That wasn't my intent. It was the intent of, you know, letting them go for it. If I could have just, I guess in hindsight, I could have said, hey, you know, right now there's a youth out there trying to pony this up, and there might be something on there on that, but it never even crossed my mind, I'll be honest with you, because I knew that they couldn't do anything until that. But I just want to, I guess, Josh asked me to kind of clarify that, because there were some things on that, so I said I would do that. That's kind of the underlying clarification on that. Finally, and then you guys can ask me any questions. I have 2 community days coming up in January. I'm at Lions French Church on the 9th. On the 16th, I'm at Aldersgate, both at 6. I did have one this past month at Chapel Marble. I think we had, it was a smaller attendance crowd on that evening. But I had a nice conversation with a couple community members, so it was nice. Sorry, any questions for me?
You mentioned abating at Lexington. Did we get pricing for abating at Marlboro and Washington as
No.
well?
Not yet, because I knew that the bulk of it was there, and, you know, when we started talking about the high school roof, you remember, and we kind of were, I don't want to say, being cautiously optimistic that the new roof on Lexington, since the banging and the hitting was over, and we do have to monitor that particular building every 6 months with the, with the abatement specialist, that we can just kind of, let's just wait and work our way through the process as we go. Like I said, I would never recommend a full abatement unless we just really got the money to be able to do that. And if I remember talking with the abatement company, which I think is Cardinal, that would do it, if they got the job, they said they probably couldn't even do that in a summer.
Phases.
It really would still have to be the same way in phases, because even if they could, it's just too much to do it correctly and cleanly enough so the students can still attend. So we still have to be probably at least a 2-year phase, if not more, with the inclusion of a drop ceiling. I think we talked about that in the work session.
And one other thing, you mentioned the tear down of the chimney. That quote was for $161,000. That was for complete tear down, below roof. They had another option that was tear down masonry to the bottom of the last stone band, and then they form and pour a new concrete cap to seal the chimney off for $41,000. So that's an option as well.
Right, and I'm not saying there's any. I'm just trying to point out there's always, as much as I could miss it like anybody else, there's always a specific need for PI, even when you get the big things done. We finally get caught up on paving, we finally get caught up on roofs. We still have a lot of things that I think for safety in the long run for our district to maintain, these are things we probably need to address, I guess is where I'm at, because I think the question from the board in particular asked what other needs are there. And it's hard in 3 weeks to get real hard figures, but I wanted to at least have kind of my notes as I walked around. I didn't want to think I just ignored it, but there are a list of things that we do.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Public participation. Did anyone sign up to speak?
No.
No old business? A new business?
Okay, we have 2 items on new business tonight. Okay, the first one, I actually have 1 item in new business tonight, then we just have it's not one as a we have 1 motion tonight for new business. I apologize. First one, the only one, is recommend the motion to approve the following resolution to proceed with the permanent improvement levy as shown in exhibit below.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
So I will just say that after Alan Harold did it, I don't have the net. I have everything but not the net. So a 2.9 mil levy will gross Marlington local schools for 5 years, once per year, $1.551 million. It will cost exactly $102 per $100,000 of county auditor appraised value, and it will be for 5 years. And so I just, as whoever speaks about the levy, when they talk about it with people, I try to explain to them, if you're going to talk about it, please make sure you don't think about your Zillow value. You know, that's probably the most confusing part about levies, is people will get on Zillow and say, my house is worth $300,000, so that's going to cost me $306, or basically $1 a day, and I'll say, probably not. If you go to the county website, your house is probably assessed at a lower value. Very rarely is it the same as Zillow. It's typically significantly lower. So it's just one of those things where you just gotta coach them up a little bit. But we're not gonna get 1.551 million. We are gonna get less than that because obviously we're taxed a little bit different because of Nexus when it comes to our millage. We actually get less than that, but we won't know until it actually, if it comes, if it would pass. We're guessing probably somewhere around 1.4 in the middle, right around 1.4 plus.
I'd like to add, just reiterate what Dan has been saying about it and appreciate the effort and the work you've done in researching this, Dan. It makes a lot of sense shifting the operating money over to PI, or at least get a PI levy on the ballot for people to approve because of what we're doing currently using operating money. I think you're thinking long-term here, beyond 3 years, 5 years down the road. The buildings that we have are old, and like you said, they're going to continue to cost money to keep them open, keep them operating. What we know now that has to be repaired is going to change. In a couple of years, something else is going to pop up. We're going to have to repair. So you mentioned the 5 education buildings, but we also have bus garages. We have the grounds, the parking lots, like you mentioned. We have the horticulture building. We have the athletic fields, water treatment plants, the sewer plants, the lighting in the parking lots, that's an issue. And then, of course, the buses are part of that, right? Mm-hmm. That's considered permanent improvement. So it's an ongoing capital campaign year after year. And we're only generating, like you said, 600,000, which in today's economic climate, it's not going very far. So we're here to educate the kids, and we're using our operating money that's used to pay teachers to keep buildings going and so forth. So I think it's a great plan. It's a modest levy. I don't think it's extravagant by any means. I think it's enough to get us down the road until hopefully Nexus can start seeing some of that money come in. So I think it's a good plan. I want to, hopefully we need 51% of the voters to approve it. And I think you've spelled it out well. I think you've laid it out well, and I think it's something that can be supported.
I
think it's easy to understand it.
I agree, and I just thinking that, and I have those on my list. I didn't bring it, but bus garages is another one. Our garage, this is, you might giggle, but we do need a bay or two in our garage. And we should have a lift in our garage, is really what we should have for our buses. Right now, our garage is, we have to let air out of the tires in our buses to get our buses to go into our garage for general maintenance. And it's a wish. Don't get me wrong. It's a wish. It's not saying it's a need. We're fine. We've been operating under that scope fine, but it would be nice with our mechanics to be able to say, hey, if we added another bay, we put a lift on it for as much as they do to save us money, it makes their life a little bit easier. It's just you're right. There's just little things, but that's what PI money's for. It really is. And I think this gives the taxpayers an opportunity to say, yay, I'm happily will do that because I can't use it for operating costs. I can't use it to pay raises or add programs or anything else. It's strictly for that. And that's my mindset, honestly, it's nothing more than that. We can continue to operate, even though we haven't had operating money in 20 years, mm-hmm. we can still maintain with the current cuts that we made in 2 years through attrition and replacing what we've had that we could. And obviously we're still losing staff on a yearly basis for retirements, and we're going to have to replace those staff, but as we replace them at a newer staff at a lower cost, those are going to be additional savings and things down the line. So I think we can continue to maintain out. But I agree.
I would just add that, thinking about what is reasonable, not having new PI money for 25 years, not having new operating money for 20 years. Is it reasonable to ask for a small levy to pass? And I think most reasonable people would think that the answer is yes. It's, you know, everything that, as Dana said, the cuts that have been made and where we've been going with trying to curb things so that we continue to move in the right direction and not overspend. You know, we've made the right moves. And is it reasonable to ask for this money? It is.
And to be honest, the reason why I say 2.9 is I feel 2s is a good thing. It wasn't like I pulled a number out. I kind of matched where we're kind of pulling out of operating in general. I'm probably a little over that, to be honest, when it finally came out. And I asked community members. I really did. I asked people that voted no for the 7.6 mil levy 2 years ago that did not pass, but there was nothing changed in the district either. You know, and they said, listen, you know, I asked, would you support either one? They think they small. They said they could probably support either one, but when I explained the different, you know, PI versus operating, they were all in. They say go PI.
Right.
They said they like the fact that it controls what it is. It gives them. That's what they said. You know, gives them that hand in what they're doing. And these were people that voted no. I mean, actually, everybody I spoke to voted no. And it wasn't a large pocket of people, because that's, but you know, when I asked where they would sit, you know, if I'm putting a levy on, where would you sit? And these are all 3 townships. You know, so it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to put the facts out there, and that's okay. And the voters will vote, and we'll move on. And let me be very clear, as I said last meeting, this is not a levy of threat. There's not going to be if you don't pass, we're going to do this to the buildings, or if you don't pass, we're going to do this to the staff, or you don't pass, there's nothing like that at all. I just think it's the right time to ask, and I think it'll put our district in a more attractive place to be. Not that it's not attractive to be right now. I just want to continue to make it more attractive. And it keeps our tax base low compared to our neighbors. Any other questions about that?
I guess one thing I don't understand is the change of sentiment on the use of the Nexus funds. We have been using that for doing repairs, and it wasn't 4.5 years ago that some on this board were perfectly fine using all of the Nexus funds to push for consolidated elementary, which would have limited none of the Nexus funds towards operating. Yet now we're saying we shouldn't be using any of that for repairs.
Okay, good question to both of them. So I'll answer my opinion, obviously, because it's all subjective to what you're saying. Everything you said sounds reasonably right, because I think those conversations happened amongst the board when they started talking about Nexus. You can't go back in hindsight. It's no different than the infighting that we had that, you know, I've been working really hard to make go away. You know, if I was sitting on that back at the table back then, or as a board member, or as a community member in that, I'm sure I would have had a different opinion, but I had no opinion. I was an employee of the district. I listened to what's going on. So I can't judge that decision at that time based on where our enrollment was going, what was happening. At that time, that was a decision made. That's the past is the past. When I look at what this board has accomplished now in the last 18 months, and where I see the long-term future in my mind, that is operating money, and it should be in there. Now, you can always take operating money any time, but should you have took the full amount? No. But, you know, at the same time, I would have, if it was me sitting in this chair and not Joe Knoll, I would have said, hey, let's ask for permanent improvement money then. Let's see what the voters say. If the voters vote down permanent improvement money, then we may have to pull from the Nexus money, because we're going to have needs that have to be done. But that wasn't the case. It was an automatic pull, you know, based on whatever. You know, I think there wasn't a split vote on what that was either way. So I don't think there's a sentiment change. Maybe there is amongst the board, more of a superintendent change and a superintendent recommendation, that I feel that this is the right time to ask for a small amount. And then I think you leave that Nexus money back in the operating money. If Nexus would settle down the road and we get a more of an influx in, and you want to set some of that aside and say, no, we're good, because you're operating under this pretense, great. Set it aside for something else, rainy day fund, whatever, interest. I'm not against any of that either. I just kind of looked at it, what's the difference between what we're currently taking in versus what's out and what our needs are. And we spent about $2 million last year on the district, and I think we probably need to continue to spend roughly $2 million for at least the foreseeable future, I think, to continue to get the district caught back up. You know, and the cuts we made were, like I said a few months ago, it was really just righting the ship to a degree. I mean, our enrollment declined by about 250 some kids, so that kind of matches the certified classified loss that we had on that note. So to answer your question, no, I can't say 4 years ago, yeah, there was a different sentiment on the board. There was a different superintendent sitting on the board. There was a different treasurer sitting on the board. So for me, I can't speak for either of them. I think their decisions were proper at the time or whatever. I don't know. But for me, it's my recommendation. I haven't had any private conversations with board members saying, hey, what do you think on this? That's just my recommendation. The board could say no. I mean, I really don't know where the board stands. That's just what I would do.
Well, and things do change. I mean, it's not like everything just stays the same and we have a static, situation. Things change. And, who would have known that that we were going to have this situation with Nexus, still not, getting the full amount. I mean, there are so many different things involved. Like Dan said, he wasn't sitting there. Everybody here, it wasn't sitting here. Maybe some of us were, but some of us weren't. And the situation was different. And, you can't say, well, gee, why the change? Because things change.
We also had the luxury of the ESSER funds, and those were being used to balance the books and had the accounts. So you had an additional amount of money that was in there.
We were blessed, as much as I would never want COVID to come back. We were blessed with some funds that put us in a better position, for those few years that we had it. So that, I can't.
Yeah, and that was unforeseen. That was unforeseen. I mean, who sees this? I mean,
I think the board then made decisions that was in the best interest of the district at the time with recommendations from the superintendent. I'm not saying they were right. I'm not saying they were wrong. I'm just telling you where I sit right now. This is the recommendation that I feel best right now in 2023 in December for us to move forward. And based on what Ryan Cazzini said and Bob with the 5-year forecast, this is the best for us to see in the long term with a $9 to $10 million carryover and giving us a lot of flexibility as a district to still bring in additional money and still be able to set aside maybe even more funds for other things beyond that. We just don't know. We just don't. So that's kind of my thought, I guess. I hope I answered that okay.
all right. Call the roll, please.
We need a motion.
We had
Had a motion.
Mark and
First and second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Krupko?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
No.
Ms. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Swift?
Yes.
Okay, and the second item is not a motion. It is a review of the proposed 2024-2025 school calendar. So this will sit for 30 days. I'll put this on our website as a draft. Then we will vote on it next month. So obviously, if anybody has any comments, suggestions, they can reach out to the office. Unless you're a K through 12 student that likes to give me suggestions daily on how many days break should be. So we will have that.
Christmas break on this is 2 weeks. That's pretty.
It's just how it falls. Every year it falls. It falls a little different. So.
Gave them 2 weeks off, David. Good job, kids.
We're still doing our normal. We'll have our PD days, front load our PD days a little bit there in the last week of August. Obviously, the kids will be starting after Labor Day. Thanksgiving break, we keep the same. Christmas break, the way Christmas falls this year, it'll be a little bit longer than our current Christmas break, just the way it falls, which is, but most of the counties in the same boat. Almost everybody in the county is. The only difference is we've been able to have the luxury at least given a larger spring break for the last few years. at the end of March. We really can't do that. If you guys remember, those of you guys have all been on the board long enough, remember those long marches where there's not really any break in there. So that's kind of what happens before we get into April. You know, and Easter's late this year too. Easter's late in April this year. And that still gets us out June 4th. So some years we're June 9th. You know, this particular calendar we can get out on June 4th. So it's a proposed calendar. Just take a review. It's nothing to vote on. And it'll be up on the website. So any community members who got any questions, feel free to reach out. Okay.
Okay, treasurer's agenda, Mr. Foss.
First item on the treasurer's agenda is approval of the minutes. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the following meetings: November 6th, work session, November 16th, regular board meeting.
So moved. I'll second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Krupko?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Swift?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion or a recommendation that the Board of Ed approve the financial reports for the month of November 2023 as shown in the exhibits.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
If you wouldn't mind, I'll give a quick update on what's happening in the Treasurer's office too,
Please.
before we take this vote. All right, in November here, our gap audit for the regular financials, basic financials was finished. That's been filed with the state auditor. It's not posted on their website yet. If anyone in the public would like a copy of that, it's available in my office until it gets posted by them. Our 5-year forecast, which was recently approved by the Board of Ed, was uploaded by the November 30th deadline and is available for viewing on the Department of Ed's website. This last month too, in November here, we're always looking for efficiency. We tried a new open enrollment process for benefits, which ended up being difficult and problematic, unfortunately. But we did successfully enroll 296 employees in our benefits system. Another item too, with the assistance of Doug Needing from the ESC, we made some progress toward a good fuel storage solution, which we can discuss here with the appropriation revisions I have shortly. But November was very busy. Just to give some perspective, for our accounts payable checks, we processed 180 checks, totaling $910,441.98. As far as payroll transactions go, we had 629 direct deposits, 313 paper checks, totaling $1,391,746.63. We processed 152 receipts, equating to 467 accounting transactions at a little over $1 million. During November, I received 1,930 emails, sent 644. We had 7 public records requests received in November, processed 6 of them so far. Since starting in December, I've had 27 public record requests, provided requesters with over 297 files, 1,683 pages of documentation to even one requester. So those can keep us busy. A couple highlights with the financial reports. The reconciliation was completed for November with cash balance of $11,928,350.17. The general fund component of that, $8,741,020.05. And the permanent improvement fund has a balance at the end of November of $1,103,519.72. As far as investments go, in November we earned $46,321.22 on our investments. Fiscal year to date, we've earned $239,791.87. For perspective, last year for the same time period, we earned $82,091.68. So earnings are much better this year.
Nice work. How many public records requests did you say we got last month?
7.
How much time does your office spend putting that together?
I don't have that for the month. I'd say on average, and they vary a lot, but probably they could go from, some take a very short amount of time to do, some take days, you know, probably on average 5 to 6 hours each.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I don't do a great job at keeping track of how long I take on each.
That's
You know, I have documented some. I know I've documented at least 75 hours that I've spent on public record requests, but I know I haven't
Time
recorded
that
each
could
one.
be devoted elsewhere.
Either way, the hard part with that isn't so much that doing them or the time, it's more that we're already kind of overly busy sometimes. So some days if you get a public record request, you know it's going to take even 2 hours. It's like, well, that just means you're staying 2 more hours later. It doesn't mean you just fit that in the day. It means this is required. So it can make things difficult. It adds a workload that complicates things. Plus, a lot of them, too, like even when I mentioned how many pages we provide, sometimes there's a lot of work involved even if you don't provide anything, because the legal aspects of fulfilling these requests take a lot of times interaction with the attorneys. It takes research into the law. You know, one of the requirements with responding to a public records request is if you do not provide any of the items requested, you have to actually cite the code, the legal reference or authority for not providing that item. So it can take a lot of research to say, is this adequate? There's certain laws that relate to the broadness, like you don't have to provide an overly broad request. Well, what is overly broad? It can take a lot of conversation with the attorneys. It could take a lot of research to figure out these things. I've spent many hours on public record requests that didn't even have anything to provide at the end of it because of the research involved. So,
Are you doing the bulk of that yourself?
yes. Yeah.
So the staff you have, they can't really get involved like you can because of what
Well,
you just cited?
A couple of reasons. You know, a lot of the requests are for human resources and payroll-related information or accounts payable information. Sometimes it's stuff that only me or the payroll person would have access to. There's also, so access to the records is one, confidentiality is another. A lot of the records need redacting. Like every month I get requests, for example, for all of our legal receipts or our legal invoices. I have to redact them until there's nothing left on them except the amount and the name of the law firm. There's very little value in it, in my opinion. But yet, that's a process that you have to take and redact that. I spent, I don't know, tens of hours for sure, like redacting one personnel folder, because it had close to 150 pages in it related to the bus accident, for example, so that it would be available. So that's not on here in the sense that that never went out. But that took, all in all, that probably took a whole week of my life as far as like the record requests go. But the human resources side has also been taking a lot of work. Like I know in November I could definitely say that at least 3/4 of the time I spent was not on your typical treasurer duty. It was on human resources related type of things, public record requests, benefits enrollment, ACA reporting, which is like for the Obamacare type of reporting. You have to report a lot of details and information for that. And a lot of those HR functions, like enrolling in benefits, many years ago used to be a function handled by the Educational Service Center for us on our behalf, and now it's not. Now that's for us to do now, as is like 1099s, reporting, printing, W-2s. Those are services that also used to be provided through the ESC that take our time this season as well. So yeah, if you have any questions on that, let me know, but it takes a bit of work.
Thank you, Bob.
Costly.
You're welcome.
It's costly.
Well, it's frustrating in the sense that there's things I'd rather be doing that I think would be more productive, but yet I know it's also, but I also respect that aspect of it has to be there. The public records, people need to have access to that information. I agree with the principle. It's just hard when I'm short on time to work through those things.
Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Swift?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Humphries?
Yes.
Ms. Krupko?
Yes.
Budget and revenue revisions. I'd like to recommend a motion to approve the following budget and revenue revisions.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
I'll just recap them quickly here. The appropriation revisions, the largest item on here is $150,000 increase to the budget for permanent improvement. We've essentially used up our budget for the year. Now, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, we have about $1.1 million cash in the permanent improvement fund, so it's not a matter of not having the cash, it's just more I need your authority or your authorization to be able to budget more there. A couple things we want to budget for are project type of things. That would be $37,000 for the tennis courts, which we'd like to undertake here. We have a proposal for that that seems reasonable. Another item that Doug Needing, I mentioned, helped with some ideas for the fuel storage. We have a quote for $47,645 to remove the underground fuel storage tanks. And I would like to budget for that in the permanent improvement fund and get that project started probably this winter here.
And let me be clear with the fuel storage tanks, those have to be removed. The EPA comes in, once we shut them down, you can't just cap them and call it a day. So there is some legal fines if we don't get into. And those are huge tanks. Those are tanks that have been the original tanks in there. So it's according to, Bob's done a lot of legwork on this with Doug Needing when we got that set up on ESC, because I was doing a lot of this legwork, and then we started meeting Bob and I with the transportation, just trying to get a clarification of how this all going to pan out. But at the end of the day, the tanks are so big, we have no idea, to say repair them, to be able to, for our things, we could get in there and it could just cost us more. So we just kind of wanted to find the best quote to do it, and then find a way to put above tanks there at more of a grant cost, which I think is what Doug Needing's looking at. There's some...
It's actually an arrangement with a fuel vendor where they'll provide the tanks for free, a couple above ground storage tanks. Of course, if we use their service to provide the fuel. But based on Doug's research, he says their prices have been as good or better than what is typically available even from our consortium sort of pricing. So he's very impressed with the firm. Right now the pricing seems great, and there's no upfront investment as far as buying the tanks.
Are we going to be able to do that over the summer?
I haven't talked to the vendors enough to know how quickly they can move on that, but it sounds like it happens quickly. Like they offer this, if you contract with them, they bring the tanks out. So.
And the tanks are much smaller, so we would get gas more, and then obviously, but it keeps our gas fresher. One of the issues we had with our current tanks is when we fill those underground, we had to add a lot of additives and various things to them, and it was just they sat a lot longer. That fuel sat much longer than it needed to, so it was one of those things where it was a little bit harder on our bus engines, And from what Tom, our head mechanic, said, that obviously causes more wear and tear and more maintenance fees for him. So a smaller
Yes.
tank would be much more efficient for us and our stuff, and then the company would have to obviously fill that up more often.
What's the contract term?
I don't have that yet for you.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
just talk in
Yeah.
general. We just know that the underground tanks need to be removed.
And how much
here.
how much was that again to remove those tanks?
$47,645. But it sounds like that idea of the smaller tanks is crucial. That's really probably the main problem with our existing tanks, in the sense that it sounds like with the newer fuels, that to have it fresh is extremely important, that our tanks are way too big for the types of fuel that we have now in the modern buses. We use the DEF fluid in our buses now too.
Makes sense.
And it sounds like a lot of injector problems happen if it gets old at all. So smaller tanks, turn them over. He said like even every, the tank size should be about where you're replacing it every week, 1 to 2 weeks at most.
Okay.
Hey, just because I think it's a positive thing too, if you look at the revenue resource revisions here, we had a couple positive things happen too that I'm going to add to our revenue expectations. A couple grants. Arts and Start grant, Corey Schneider got for $700. Mr. Rizzoletti at the middle school also got another grant. Martha Holden Jennings grant for $5,000. The football fundraising is through the roof this year compared to last, so we want to add some money for that as well.
Speaking of grants, I had it on my notes, but we obviously, outside the safety grant, our safety team grant, and that grant writing team is led by, Mr. Evanich, doing on that side of it, has just got another $10,000 grant to get another ride-along scrubber, so we got that coming in. We just applied for a $30,000 grant for a specific extinguisher that would go, that puts, it's kind of like a combination extinguisher at the same time for a threat assessment. It's like an extinguisher like pepper spray, goes upwards of 20 yards. We actually demonstrate it. We have one in the office. If you want to shoot one, you can. It's really
Pepper
cool.
spray and an extinguisher?
Yeah, so it's pretty neat at the thing. So they have a grant for it that you can apply. So we do have a bottle in our office. So if you're interested in taking a shoot at once or something, please stop in and see me. You can go outside and do a shot on that if you like. So, but we do have other grants outside of the large one. Like I promised, year by year, we're going to continue to write grants and see what we get. We've gotten multiple scrubbers. I think 3 push-behinds, 1 ride-along. We're getting another one, so we'll have 2 ride-along, 3 push-behinds within just the last year on that, on just writing, some of those smaller grants in there for that. That's saving us.
I was going to say, be wear and tear on your staff.
So the ride-alongs were great. They're out there.
Oh, they're happy with it.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So I meant to say that. Sorry about that. That was on there. So I only want to thank Nick and his team for working on that
Yeah,
too.
that was on there too.
I'm sorry, call roll play. My apologies.
Good.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Humphries?
Yes.
Ms. Krupko?
Yes.
Mr. Swift?
Yes.
Personnel.
Okay, on the personnel, again, this is a short one here, so I'm just going to, if you guys are good, I will do consent, give you a quick overview, not go through every one. We have certified retirements. We have 2 certified teacher retirements this month, Shirley Hall and Mark Greco. We have 2 classified retirements, Colleen Mathis and Joanne Middleton, both from Lexington. We have a certified transfer. We have a tutor that's been, she's been a teacher all year. We didn't transfer her to a teacher. So she's just been, so we need to get that adjusted. For her, that's just, not really changing anything except the correct terminology. Classified hire, we have 1 for latchkey. We have then a couple sub-hires for classified and certified under that. These are just subs, as needed if we need them. Our typical supplementals that kind of pop up to make sure we continue to fill our spots for supplementals. And then as you'll see we have 4 FMLA requests. We had the 3 and then the additional 1 that was put on that Bob talked about. So that's it.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Losing a couple of, losing a few good folks there.
Yeah.
We are, and I don't know, I've been kind of tracking these since August. I have another, notes in my notes of retirements. Like I said, we're in that pivotal age in this district where, I guess this year, from 5 to 10 teachers is what we're losing. And that doesn't include, that's certified, not even on the classified. So we take a look at those, and I think that'll continue moving forward a little bit, because we just got a lot of teachers that are in that sweet spot of these are their last, 2 to 3 years. And you're right, these are just good people that have just been the heart of Marlington. I mean, it's really what it is. I mean, you can't
A lot of
really,
institutional knowledge.
yeah. You say, you're talking about Shirley Hall and Mark Greco, you really can't say one without the other without knowing the building they've been at forever.
Well, Colleen Mathis has been there
Colleen's at Lexington.
like 35 years.
35 years plus, probably longer.
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, so she knows everything
long
about the
time.
building, that's for sure, and its kids.
Well, we will miss them. We call the roll, please.
Ms. Krupko?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Swift?
Yes.
Okay. Executive session. We recommend the motion for the Marlington Local School District Board of Education to recess into executive session pursuant to revised code 121.22G1 to consider the employment or evaluation of a public employee. All matters discussed in this executive session are designated to the public officials and employees as confidential pursuant to revised code 102.03B because of the status of the proceedings and/or the circumstances under which the information will be received, and preserving its confidentiality is necessary to the proper conduct of government business. Following executive session, no action is expected.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Are we expecting this to take a while? Is this evaluations?
This shouldn't take a while. It shouldn't take too long. Okay. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Krupko?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Swift?
Yes.
Okay, time in is 7:26.
Oh, we got to get out
We
of
gotta
executive session?
Where's my pen? I got it.
7:51.
Okay, we're out. Are we ready? Thank you. We're out at, what time is it?
7:51.
51?
Yep.
Okay. First I thought you said 31. I was like, that was 5 minutes? Crazy. Okay. Announcements, Dan?
Yeah, just upcoming events. Obviously, if you get out of here right now, you probably get a chance to catch a portion of the high school choir performance right now up in the auditorium. Our middle school and high school band shows on Tuesday the 19th. Our athletes do have their signing day on the 20th. December 22nd through January 2nd, Christmas break. January 15th is no school, it's Martin Luther King Day. And January 19th will be the end of the second 9 weeks. We're pretty much there. We're just
Nice.
halfway through the year.
Beautiful. Okay. All right, election of President Pro Tempore for the organizational meeting. Is there a motion?
I move to have Karen as President Pro Temp.
Any other suggestions and or conversation? Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Krupko?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Mr. Swift is left. Ms. Humphries?
Yes. So the next Board of Education meeting date, we have a motion to have the organizational meeting on January 11th at 5:30 PM. Anyone?
So moved.
Second.
Sorry.
No. Wake up, everyone. Okay.
Was that Mr. Hagan with second?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Discussion? Okay, call the roll, please.
Ms. Krupko?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Swift? Not here.
He's not here. And the next Board of Education meeting, recommend the meeting to hold the next regular Board of Education meeting on January 11th at 6 PM here in CLZ.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
The only thing I point out in this meeting, because we're holding the organization and then that meeting, and it's right when we come back, I asked the administrators, they thought it was a good idea that we would do Students of the Month for January and February at the February's meeting, so we would not have any special presentations at the January meeting, if you guys are okay with that.
That sounds good. Makes sense.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so call the roll, please.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Krupko?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Humphries?
Yes. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Krupko?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Ms. Humphries?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good night.
Not